is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea, then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Emily Ferrier, here to bring you my favorite weird news stories that have kept me up till the wee hours of the morn. So to start us off this week, we're hitting hard right off the bat with some really bizarre conspiracy theories about solar power. Most countries around the world are pushing for renewable resources for energy so they can phase out fossil fuels, right? Well, there are plenty of initiatives, to get out wind, solar, tidal, geothermal, and other sources of nature-garbing energy in this place. However, it doesn't seem like everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid. One town in America has rejected plans for solar panel farm because of its fears that it will suck, wait for it, all the sunlight away from the surrounding areas. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, people in Woodland, North Carolina have told local council they don't want the solar panels until they can assess the potential danger to their community. The application to rezone a selection of agricultural land was shot down when residents suggested solar panels draw out sunlight from other sources to increase energy output. Retired science teacher Jane Mann told the town hall meeting that plants could potentially die because they won't be able to complete photosynthesis. She also questioned whether solar panels could give cancer. "I want the information. Enough is enough. I don't see the profit for the town," she said. People come with hidden agendas. Until we can find if anything's going to damage the community, we shouldn't sign any paper. The town hall meeting was also attended by Brent Neiman, a representative of the Strata Solar Company, who criticized Jane for spouting claims that she had zero evidence for. "The panels don't draw additional sunlight," he said. Despite the offering, councillors ended up voting against the solar panel measure from 3 to 1. 3 to 1! I mean, it's very easy to persuade people, isn't it? One person cries boo, and then everyone else gets on board with it. I, for one, huge fan of solar energy. You know what? Also, even if it did draw extra energy and soak up the sun the way that they say it does, we could probably use that. I think all the holes in the ozone, maybe this would solve it. If it would do that. I don't know. This is a little bit crazy even for me. I hate to say crazy because I don't mean to, use that word as a term of, but the point is, it's just, come on. Solar energy is not taking the sun away from the rest of the community. There's plenty of sun to go around. If you wear black, you soak up more sun, right? Because the sunlight goes directly more to black. It's drawn more to black than it is to white, right? So should we outlaw people from wearing black t-shirts in public because they're taking it away from the white t-shirt people? That's the level we're talking here. That's, I think, why I can't wrap my head around it. Okay. In other insane conspiracy news, a cluster of new skyscrapers transforming the London skyline are often blamed for spoiling the view. But now, one's been accused of melting a car. Yes, melting. A motorist said that the intense sunlight reflected from the walkie-talkie. If you don't know, it's a flashy tower in the City of London's historical financial district. It's shaped like a walkie-talkie. I guess it doesn't need that much of an explanation. It's shaped like a walkie-talkie. Anyway, so he complained that it warped his Jaguar where he parked it across the road. Okay, first of all, if it's a Jaguar, you probably can afford another one, you know? The skyscraper's developers said that they were seeking to rectify the problem, which they blamed on the position of the sun at certain times of the day. The phenomenon is caused by the current elevation of the sun in the sky, currently lasts for approximately 2 hours a day. With the initial modeling, suggested that it would be present for 2 to 3 weeks. Land Securities at Canary Wharf said this in a statement. 3 parking bays have been taken out of service pending a solution. So it actually did melt this guy's car. This building melted this guy's car. That's insane. There's no way. How did it melt the car? Okay, so reading on. Martin Lindsay said that he left his car for an hour opposite the building, returned to find the wing mirror panels and the Jaguar badge had melted. Okay, so not the whole thing, but the accessories, the bit that makes everyone know how flashy and rich you are. And that's the most important part for most of these businessmen. You can't believe something like this would happen, I'll say. They've got to do something about it. I mean, yeah, they probably should if it's melting expensive cars like that. It's like the grown-up version of like a kid who uses a magnifying glass to burn ants, isn't it? It's like, we're going to use our huge, expensive building to melt your car. The 37-story building at Fenchurch Street will feature a viewing deck and sky gardens open to the public. So I've actually been to this tower. Very cool tower. I definitely didn't park near there. So there's that. I do recommend going, though. It's quite nice. Maybe you just park elsewhere in the city. I wonder if this is the only building that this is. I haven't been able to find another case of this happening in other buildings. But if you have any cases, please let me know. Fascinated by it. That's all we have on melting cars. So when we return, we're going to talk about a strange claim of a different source of power. That's when we return.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Okay, we are back. So before the break, we talked about the conspiracy theories behind solar panels and very hot buildings. Now we're going to talk about the claims for a different source of power that would enable levitation. Okay, this is a weird thing that I found. Here's a strange claim for you. Viktor, bear with me, Grebennikov, his anti-gravity platform. This is a Russian man. We're going to call him Viktor. He discovered, maybe, that some insect wing covers have anti-gravity properties. And using these wing covers together, he claims to have created a flying platform that could travel at amazing speeds silently and at times, wait for it, invisibly. So I don't know if you guys have seen Harry Potter, but yeah, it's going to get weirder than that. Victor wrote detailed accounts of his experiences flying over the Russian countryside using
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
his levitation device. These flying experiences, as well as his reported observations of other paranormal phenomena, usually involving nests or parts, appear in his self-published book, My World. I'll say, My World. Absolutely. So, Victor was a self-proclaimed Russian scientist, self-proclaimed being the key word here, naturalist, entomologist, and paranormal researcher, best known for his claim to have invented a levitation platform which operated by attaching dead insect parts to the underside. The second reason, so the second bit of this, right? I've found anti-gravitational structures only in one species of Siberian insect. I dare not even naming the next class to which this insect belongs because it seems to be on the verge of extinction. And the population surge which I'd registered back then was possibly local and final. So there are only insects that he could find and nobody else. So, don't go looking for them because he's not going to disclose the information of his brilliant scientific discovery. Now, what would be the guarantee of that dishonest people, half competent in biology, would not rush out into ravines, meadows, and forests to catch perhaps the very last samples of this miracle of nature? If I were to name the species, what are the guarantees that they don't plow hundreds of glades and cut down dozens of forests to get this potentially lucrative prey? I mean, he takes a point with that, but doesn't it seem a little convenient that he's not able to disclose any of this? I hope I will be understood and forgiven by those of my many readers who want immediate information about my discovery, not for selfish ends, but simply out of curiosity. Indeed, what would you do in my place if you were to act the best interests of the living nature? Besides, I can see that similar inventions have been made by other people who are also in no rush to take their discoveries to bureaucrats' offices who prefer to fly across the night skies in the guise of strange discs, triangles, or squares, which surprising eyewitnesses with their iridescent flicker. Is he claiming that UFOs are all just made by people like him? I think he is. Sounds like it, doesn't it? So what do we think? What do we think? Did he develop this anti-gravity platform that created a force shield around him that allowed him to travel over 1,000 miles per hour? I mean, how can we prove or disprove? He claims that the beetle wing covers created a flying platform that could reach speeds up to 1,500 miles per hour without feeling the effects of inertia, wind, or air friction. So I can provide a link if you're interested. Maybe if you send us a comment, we can provide a link so you can read a little bit more about that. Victor claims, my platform and I cast no shadow. I see 3 kids on the edge of a forest go down, drop my speed, and fly right near them. They show no reaction, which means that everything is fine. Neither I nor my shadow are visible or hurt. The propulsion principle of my device is such that the platform makes no sound whatsoever because there's practically no air friction. I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to be a scientist. A lot of this sounds like it's not scientifically possible. I don't see how a device would make simply no noise doing that. This sounds very like, it sounds like something that would happen on the Jetsons. No? Nobody else think that? Doesn't it sound just like the Jetsons? No? Just me that thinks that? Okay. We don't have any data to back him up. But we also don't really have enough data to rule him out. You know? It's that thing, like you can't prove it, but you can't disprove it. So, in a way, does that prove it? Or does it? I'm running in circles now. It kind of explains the UFO sightings, though, doesn't it? I know I've talked a lot about UFOs on this. I'll never get over them. They're unidentified. That's in the title, okay? We're not going to stop talking about them until they become IFOs. Identified flying objects, decidedly less exciting, okay? I can't be the only one that thinks that. I mean, the natural world being anti-gravity, it would make it easier for us to wrap our brains around, I suppose, you know? Because we're so horrified by the idea of other things. I think it's naive of us to think that we're the only beings in the world, in the galaxy, well, the world, galaxy, solar system, ecosystem, universe, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, maybe this is possible. I just hope that 2020 gives us a few more answers to these questions. Okay. I think I've had enough for weird sources of power. Have you? Yeah? Should we move on from these weird claims? I don't know. Maybe... I mean, if beetles could help us, that would save a lot on gas. It would save a lot on gas. It'd be pretty horrifying, though. There's a Tim Burton idea. We should pitch that to him. Beetle gas. Beetle gas. Propelling you forward since 1991. 98? 89? I don't know when it came out. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about the luckiest man I think I've ever heard of. All of that when we come back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back. So, when we left, we were talking about some weird energy sources and beetles. And now we're going to talk about the luckiest man I've ever heard of. Okay, this guy, Bill Morgan, came back to life and then won the lottery twice. Once on TV. Bill Morgan was pronounced dead after a car accident. Pronounced dead. But then he came back to life. After that, he was asked to reenact his winning lottery scratch. Oh, hold on. Sorry. So the car accident happened, and then he won a lottery where he won a car. Do you take it? I mean, isn't that sort of fate being like, all right, I didn't get you the first time, so here's a free car. Try it again. This time I'm going to nail it. I promise. Anyway, so then he was asked to reenact it on TV. And during the reenactment, he won $25,000. No, $250,000. And I mean, that's sort of like a metaphor for male privilege, isn't it? Anyway, so his heart stopped. He's in a coma, wakes up, wins a car, reenacts the car win, accidentally wins $250K in front of everyone. Okay, so this is a 37-year-old truck driver. He's in this accident, develops a heart condition, right? Then has an allergic reaction to heart medicine. His heart stopped for 14 minutes. He was in a coma for 12 days. His family was advised to turn off life support, but then his life turned around. He survived that, found himself with a new engagement, a job, a new car, which he won from the lottery, and then scratched on camera. I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot. He also got married a year after he died. Can you imagine? Like, you married a dead guy. You are the corpse bride. The bride to a corpse. So a year after his heart stopped, he proposed to his girlfriend, and she said yes. And, oh no, yeah. After that, he won the car. So he wins life, then the girl, then the car, then the money. This is like the best game of life ever played, isn't it? This is like rolling all the right moves in the game of life. My sister was always really good at that game growing up, and I always got the shit end of the stick. You know, I always got like the, apologies for swearing. I always got the, you owe $15,000. I was always like a poor artist, you know, or a custodian, that kind of thing. Someone that didn't make a lot of cash. But this guy's nailed it. Anyway, he plans on using his winnings to buy a house. Buy a house? $250,000. Really? Okay. That's not enough money to buy a house. Anyway. He's taken the last name of his wife. I like that. So, what do we think happened during his coma? Did he have an It's a Wonderful Life situation? Did he have a George Bailey moment? I think probably, right? Probably, was thinking about how he needed to turn his life around, and boy, did he ever. Your life began anew amongst that. This actually kind of reminds me of that Paul Rudd show. Is it Living with Yourself? When he has to hang out with his cloned self. That bit's great. He's he's not too happy, and he goes to this happy spa, and what they do is actually clone him, and then he all of a sudden is this way better guy. He's happy. He has a newfound thirst for life. And Anyway, the other clone ends up still being alive, and there's like this whole fight about who should win the life. I just wish I knew. I just wish I knew what happened, because doesn't it feel like he switched universes, like in the multiverse theory, like it was like a different Bill that woke up, and that Bill was like, no, we're gonna get this one. Power of positive thinking. Oh, magic. So what do we think? Do we think that this is luck? Do we think, He genuinely looks so floored and happy and sweet in the videos of him winning the lottery that he won live. So maybe this is like a good things come to good people kind of situation. Genuinely seems like a lovely guy. So maybe that's all we need. We all just need to be a little less bitter, It's a lot of luck for one person, isn't it? I know. Maybe share some with the rest of us. I'll take like a little bit of that, I never won anything. Actually, that's not true. I won a raffle the other night at a comedy show where I get to pick out a odd item from a bag that the host didn't want. What I picked out was a picture of Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un hugging. So you can see why they might not have wanted that. I did not keep the t-shirt. Anyway, back to Bill. Wow. I mean, unlikely is an understatement. That's beyond that to me. I wonder what he's going to do with this money. Because let's be honest, it's not enough for a house. If you're looking for something to do, if you're looking for an investment, Bill, I highly recommend giving it to the GSMC podcast network. We can always use it. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to switch over from the luckiest man to a little bit of an unlucky man. That's when we return.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Okay, welcome back. So before the break, we talked about the luckiest man in the world. And now we're going to talk about some unlucky stuff. Okay. So this one kind of threw me for a loop. Quite liked this one. Let's get into it. Burlington police, this is the headline. I'm just going to read you it because it's a little bit shocking, and then we'll get into it. Burlington police chief resigns after anonymously trolling critic. And new chief axed hours later for the same thing. Yeah. I mean, talk about not learning from your mistakes. I mean, it's not. Anyway. So the police chief of Burlington, Vermont, resigned for 4 days after admitting that he set up a Twitter account under a fake name and used it to attack a local community activist who criticized him. Merely hours later, his replacement was fired for targeting the same community activist with a different account on Facebook. Chief Brandon DePozo was initially confronted in July by reporter Courtney Lambden about the account, which was used to tweet activist Charles Winkleman 10 times over the course of an hour, and posted it on the 7 Days website. He can be heard reportedly denying involvement in the Winklewatch account. Suffice it to say, I don't respond to him on Twitter. I don't have a sock puppet account. A sock puppet is an online persona used to hide whoever the person posting really is. The anonymous account was deleted soon after the tweets were posted, but Winkleman saved the screenshots. Winkleman published a blog post about the incident in December, and then on the 12th of December, Pozo admitted that the account was in fact his. And then the same day, Mayor Weinberger acknowledged that he'd known about the account. He said in a statement, Weinberger did, they reported that Pozo actually reported it the day that it happened. The mayor's statement said that he initially placed Pozo on administrative leave, but at the time, members of the press were told 6-week leave was taken for medical reasons. So in his statement, he said administrative leave was converted to medical after he was advised that his underlying mental health issue contributed to his behavior. He was hospitalized in 2018 due to skull fractures, brain bleeds, and a concussion after a bicycle incident. So you know what? That is actually, fair enough. That actually, I like post-concussion syndrome and effects of concussions. Like, we could talk about this for days. It was a great Malcolm Gladwell podcast about the effects of sports concussions that I think people should check out. I'm not sure if obviously plug other people. Why not, right? But definitely look into the effects of concussions. So, I support this. Early in the course of the investigation, the city attorney and HR director learned that the chief had an underlying mental health condition that impacted his actions. Yesterday, in the story, amid mounting questions over the city's handling, he announced his resignation. He posted a statement to his Twitter account, his actual Twitter account, saying that he would like to start a research center focused on policing and public health. That's quite nice. The statement doesn't involve the fake account. I wonder if the fake account will come out with its own statement. So after he resigned, the Deputy Chief Jan Wright was sworn in. Do you swear in, Police Chief? Yeah, sure. So they were sworn in, but the Wright's reign in the office only lasted a mere hours. So soon after the press conference, very soon after the press conference, announcing the new chief, Mayor Weinberger said that she also occasionally operated a fake account on Facebook under the name Lori Spicer, through which she made comments and engaged citizens in discussion of police department and policy and practice. And Winkleman was also targeted by this Lori Spicer account. You're obsessed with Chief DePozo. You can't get enough of him. He definitely lives rent-free in your head. Seek help. Uh-oh. That's damning, isn't it? Oh, that's not good. So she was let go. And now there's another chief, John Morode, confirmed explicitly to the city attorney that he's never engaged in anonymous social media posting. So it turns out there's trolls everywhere. That's good. That's good news. It's good to know. I mean, there's a lot of these fake accounts going around. I mean, God knows we know all about that, don't we? I just think it's phenomenal that in the same day, 2 police chiefs had to step down from their office due to the same thing about the same anonymous posting. It's not very good, is it? So what Winkleman had to say about the whole ordeal is that he wants now the mayor to resign. It seems pretty clear that the mayor only came forward when I posted my evidence and he was caught, allowing me to spend the last 5 months sitting with a ton of stress, which is shameful and not surprising. He writes for Lambden to get to the bottom of quote-unquote Winklewatch. Great name. If it wasn't for Courtney Lambden, I doubt the mayor or chief or deputy would even have admitted to any of this. Do we think he's right? Do we think that they would have just left it in the dark? I don't know. Is social media helping us out in this case? Or is it... Actually, none of it would have happened if it wasn't for social media, right? It's an interesting argument, isn't it? The only way you get any attention from any company is by posting about them. If you send a company a private email complaining about something, if your flight was delayed or a product wasn't up to what you wanted it to be or customer service treated you poorly, if you make a complaint to them, they never do anything about it. The only way I've ever actually gotten a company to do anything about the way I was treated or something that happened to me was by going public. Because if you do it privately, no one cares. You got to go public. So I appreciate, his chutzpah, going for it. I really appreciate that. I'm a huge fan of it. In a phone call with CBS News, Lambden said, questioning mayors and police chiefs is what reporters do. It's our job to ask people in power these somewhat uncomfortable questions. And I do appreciate Charles saying that, but I think that it just happened to be more. It could have been any other reporter. All right. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Love the triple hit on that one. It's very good. Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about some weird, gullible criminal news when we return from the break. Coming up.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we talked about some social media kind of cyberbullying between a couple of cops, a mayor and a reporter. And now that we're back, we're going to talk some silly criminal news. So our first headline in this little segment is a cop proposed to a wanted criminal and arrest him in Temple during their marriage. This is the most incredible undercover thing. I can really imagine the movie now, with like Owen Wilson as the criminal, and Tina Fey maybe as the cop. Be good. Really enjoy that. So the criminal was wanted in 16 criminal cases. 16, that's a lot. Okay. And he was arrested in a trap of marriage by a cop. So he was, he was a pretty bad criminal. So he'd actually killed a man. Okay, this is bad. And the police were trying to nab him, but every time he succeeded in dodging. Criminal was looking for a woman to marry. So the police said, okay, we'll find him one. And they sent this cop, Talik Singh, superintendent of the police, said police had arranged a woman, female cop, living in New Delhi, and said they started talking, after a week, she proposed a marriage. 1 week in, a little bit of chit chat, proposed the marriage. And then she, went to the temple to get married. And immediately he was arrested. So he's now been sentenced and is in jail. It's quite the turnaround, isn't it? You think, okay, great, okay, I got a life of bliss now. I've made it. Not only did I get away with my crimes, but now I'm going to have this lovely wife. I wonder what she said she did for a living. Like how do you say, how people always build up their jobs nowadays, like when they say they're, I'm a freelance, instead of saying I just do a bit of help with people, I'm a consultant. I consult things for people. What does that even mean? You just talk about stuff? Is that what it is? You talk about people until they find their own solutions? I like to say that I record deep thoughts. And this girl, she probably was like, okay, I can't tell him I'm a cop. So, I prove justice has a place in the world. Yeah, that'd be nice. Anyway, wow. Imagine thinking that you were going to get married and then being like, what? Being sent to jail. Oh, amazing. So that's actually not our only ridiculous criminal segment. This one, of course, comes to you from Florida. So there was a huge battle between this woman and her child's father over her son's circumcision. And the long battle ended after she agreed that the boy could get circumcised in exchange for her release from jail. This is probably the weirdest negotiation I've ever heard of, but then again, it's in Florida. In a crazy turnaround, after a week behind bars for contempt and an initial hearing to which she was ordered to remain in jail, they reconvened, and she signed paperwork giving approval for her, wait for it, 4-year-old boy's surgery was done. Okay. So I didn't know that you could circumcise someone that old. I didn't know that was a possibility. Do they go under for that one? Because I know you don't put a baby under for that. That's 4 years old is a lot. No, I mean I guess you can get it later on in life, but I was a little bit surprised by that. So she remained in jail following the signing of the paperwork. She's very, very much anti-circumcision, but she signed it just to get out of jail. Anyway, she remained and was due back on a separate criminal charge of interfering with child custody. So, made it less clear that she was going to be released. Kind of unfair. She already signed the paperwork. So, what happened is a little bit hard to uncover because the attorneys and the father both have all declined to comment. But what Georgianne Chapman says, the executive director of Enact America, which advocates against circumcision, said that it wasn't fair. She was bullied into signing, and it's not fair that the court did that. It's fair enough. It's pretty awful. She just says of the judge, I don't know what was in his head. I don't know how he can sleep at night. I mean, it is kind of strange that they sort of like coerced her into signing this paperwork and then kind of like, just kidding, you have to stay in court and we're going to cut off his hood. So they agreed to the circumcision that initially, apparently, when the child was born, but then the mother later changed her mind. That's, I guess, where it becomes dicey because they had filed an agreement in court saying that the circumcision would go ahead. So they backed out because the mother didn't consent. The surgeons backed out because the mother didn't consent. And then she took off with him. She took off with the boy. So that's not great. She agreed to do this, and then she said, actually, no, I don't really want to do it. And then she took off with him, and it sort of becomes dicey because the law was involved. But, I mean, if you change your mind later and you want to have a chat, it's probably a good idea. So weird. So anyway, she was arrested because obviously she took off with him and denied the court's claims and that. Was it worth the fight? Yeah, maybe it was. She doesn't agree with circumcision. She tried her best. But then she was actually kind of, in the end, forced to do it. So this one is, it's a weird one. It's definitely weird. I've never heard of a circumcision being used as bartering means for jail time. So that's a weird one for me. I'm not sure where I stand on this one. I'm not sure. I mean, you have to go with what the law tells you to, right? You have to kind of say, okay, well, they signed the thing, but it's kind of scary for the boy, to be kind of pulled between these things. This almost seems biblical, this whole story. It's very much like, it feels like a morality story more than like an actual story that happened. It's a bit upsetting. Very weird. Anyway, let me know what you think about this one. When we come back, we're going to do a very, very hard switch. So that when we come back.
the Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the break. Before the break, we talked about a weird circumcision story. Now, we're going to do a real hard switch to something that I found out about just like a few hours ago. Okay, so this is about Saturn, the planet Saturn, and its hexagonal like motions, I guess. So this is a phenomenon that people are still not quite sure about. So I'm just going to talk this through, and hopefully we can come to some sort of conclusion. So there's this movie taken of Saturn, and it shows images of these hexagons, and it filters them through colors so we can see them a little bit better. They are perfect hexagons. Like I encourage you to look this up. I had a hard time believing it myself, but I've seen a lot of videos and images now, and it's honestly, it's baffling. So what happened is that there was a massive hurricane tightly centered on the North Pole, 50 times larger than a hurricane on Earth, obviously, because Saturn's huge. And they spin clockwise, and then, or the storm spins clockwise. The hexagons spin counterclockwise, and it's very surreal. It looks like it looks like a kaleidoscope. It's very surreal. So the hexagon is just a current of air, and the weather features are notoriously turbulent and unstable. A hurricane on Earth typically lasts a week, but this has been here for decades, and who knows, maybe centuries. Absolutely surreal to me. I really do encourage that you look this up after we're finished here. The difference is in this version of what's going on here, okay? So they color contrast these so you can see the contrast in the video here. But so there's also this jet stream, right? In it that kind of looks like it's made up of these haze particles. And it seems to act like a barrier, which results in something that looks like the ozone hole. I don't really know what to make of it. It seems very sci-fi, like a 70s sci-fi film. So to humanize, the hexagons seem to appear to be golden blue. And they've colored them a little bit differently here. You really need to, I really need you guys to watch it. It's swirling, like towards the center, it's swirling like a circle, like quite circular the way that our hurricanes sort of go, but then just outside of that, it becomes perfectly hexagonal. And yeah, it's just a baffling phenomenon to me. What it means, I'm not really sure. But the hurricanes they're so much bigger than on Earth. They're like 35,000 kilometers each, so like twice the amount of the ones on Earth. I'm not sure what it means. What I do know is that you got to look it up. You got to see this. This is one of the weirdest things I've seen all week. So that was baffling for me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the whole podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show, write us a nice review, and please rate the episode. That really helps us. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you so much, and have a great night.